Hello.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Doing great. How about yourself?
Excellent. Let me ask you, let's begin by how you have been preparing and what your experience has been, either with previous attempts
Mhm.
and or like modes of studying, like if you've used, like, I don't know if there's 240 tutoring for your content area, like that. Tell me a little bit about what you've been doing in preparation thus far.
Okay, so thus far, I already took this exam, but I took it 2 years ago. So I feel like it's been forever.
Okay.
I was unsuccessful. I think I missed it by like 10, 15 points or something like that. Right after that, they told me, okay, the only way we can open the exam is if you schedule a tutoring session. But they weren't able to provide me any like extra stuff to study, like extra material. And since I had already finished all of my online, the 240 stuff, it's no longer open for me to study. So in essence, I have not studied, but I do think that what's really been helping me as a refresher is now I'm actually teaching. So I teach principles of health science and I teach medical terminology.
Excellent. See, and that's going to be a huge deal because the bulk of your exam, there is going to be that instructional class management aspect of it, but the bulk of it is the student's own TEKS, right?
Mhm.
Those content specific things, which you are now getting practice with, which I think is great. That's going to be a big, super big help as far as your preparation for this next attempt. And it's actually what we'll get into the things that we're going to be using to study right now, or that the type of studying that I'd like for you to engage in a bit, but it is going to direct you to the TEKS. And so the fact that you're having to teach these things to the students means that you're practicing many of those concepts already, which is a big step in the right direction. Now, when did you take, you said 2 years ago, right?
Yes.
Okay. You happen to have those scores?
Yes, I had texted them to you.
Oh, did I have them in my text? Let me go look. Let me look right now. Oh, that's right. Okay. Excellent. Perfect. That way we know like where the most, and you see occupational knowledge is where you needed the most work, and that's what you're getting right now. You're getting
Yes.
that like terminology. So that was around 50-ish% that domain, and right now you're getting live in action study time. So that is good news for you. Let me see. Let me bring up your manual and standards, and then I'll share it with you. Because I believe have you asked for additional, what is it called? Like time with 240 tutoring. There is a 240 tutoring.
I have not. When I failed it 2 years ago, I honestly I was just very discouraged and I was just never gonna do this again.
Right. No,
Yes.
I understand it. And it's very demoralizing. But the thing that most people don't know is that these exams are meant to be tricky. They want for you to at least have to take it 1 or 2 times because it's a moneymaker. And so they are on purpose, they are purposefully tricky. And they're like, it's not like they're lying to you. They do it using the words, right? It's a critical reading exam. And so you have to be a careful, mindful reader as you're going through those scenarios. And you also have to already, as part of your defense system, which is what I help you with, know what particular things do you need to look for while you're reading the scenarios, and what to pay, special attention to. What is best practice as far as pedagogy is concerned, and how to apply what we know about where students are, what we know about pedagogy and what works, what instructional strategies, what scaffolding, what, differentiation, and that application in the health science content area. So being able to do that, which is why it's a difficult exam, because it's not just a straightforward knowledge exam where you just regurgitate back facts and definitions. You have to adjust, what way to support the student in this content area doing for this particular goal, assessing the student's knowledge, so I'm trying to pull it up here. Now, what study guides have you used in the past?
So they gave me a practice exam in the past, which was 2 years ago, and they had me take the practice exam. Like I said, this was 2 years ago.
Right.
It was a practice exam actually that they also upload on that website where we register for our exams.
Okay.
It was that same practice exam. And as far as tutoring and stuff like that, I was doing that study. I think it was study.com, or I don't remember what platform they were having me use before I could register for my exam.
Okay.
Right now
Well,
I'm checking here on 240 tutoring, but I cannot find one that says health science. They have
right.
one that says health, and they have one that says something else, but not health science, life science.
Right. Yeah, they might not have, that content area because they don't have it for all. Okay, so let me share with you this document. So we're going to start, first of all, we're going to look at your scores in a little bit as they refer to, competency by competency, just to sort of know what's the overarching theme of that competency and try to understand where you placed in that.
Okay.
This document is very much like its other counterparts. Each content area and the PPR have one. And this is the way a content area begins in the state of Texas. And this is actually what TEA sends to the test maker when they have a new content area. Science of Teaching Reading was just, implemented for the first time 2 years ago, and they sent the standards document after much review, after all of the people working on committees came up with these standards that they thought were necessary for Science of Teaching Reading, and then from that came the test. So we know how important this document is as far as like where they get the particular things that they are going to be testing us over, and each standard, doing a close reading of this document, like it's something that I think every educator should do, is do a close reading of their standards to really understand like what exactly it is that the state specifically says we should know before we enter the classroom, and then what should we be able to do with that knowledge. And that's sort of the way that the document is read. So each standard gets a page, and it's divided into two sides. We're going to take a look at standard 1, and can you see fine? You can see.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So, and you're going to have access to these. I'm going to put them in a folder for you, and that way you can, get them, print them, do whatever it is that you need to do with them. So we have our standard 1, and it's overarching design. It's like the umbrella covering all of these things thematically. And so for this one, when I do a close reading, I like to read it and then put it in my own words. But for sure, try to understand each standard, like find a way to sort of summarize it thematically. Like this one is mostly about this. This is what we should focus on in this standard, or what they would like for us to. So we're going to take I'm modeling for you the way that I sort of analyze these. And it's important to analyze these because it is from these that the exam is built. And I'm going to explain to you a little bit further. So let's take a look at one. The health science teacher understands and applies 2 actions of knowledge of sciences needed in healthcare, biology. So understand and apply knowledge of sciences needed in all of these areas. Like you understand and you apply knowledge of science with regards to such a large scope of science, really, because science is very, 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 very ridiculously large. Even teaching is science. It is a type of science, pedagogy. We have to learn, human growth and development, what is normal as far as human growth and development, and be able to plan for that, what is abnormal and be able to identify it and then contact the right people and then also plan for that. So it's a science. And this standard is saying that you have to know and also apply your basic knowledge of science and all of these different content areas that are specific under science. So that would be healthcare, right?
Yes. Biology
for sure, anatomy. I mean, those are just the pathophysiology, epidemiology, microbiology. I would even imagine, I don't know if there's another standard because I haven't done a very deep dive into these particular standards, but I have read them before. And I know you have to do medical terminology, but all of that, being able to understand and apply your knowledge of science in the various ways that you'll have to support your students in your health sciences classes, right? Because you will have to delve into a myriad of topics with them. How are you enjoying class right now?
It is definitely a refresher for me, to be very honest. Prior to that, I was working at DHR, like part of their education department, but it was just like teaching the same things over and over, like basic life support and medical assistant things they had to learn. So I honestly, I feel like I was already so far away from the field.
Right.
Yeah, so going into this has really been like, oh my goodness, like now, not that now that I remember, I mean, I know my stuff, right? But it's a big refresher.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is of course, your stuff. It's muscle memory. We know that from a very specific type of science, which is neurology, and that we have neural pathways. And that's an important concept that teachers, and why it irritates me when people sort of like devalue what teachers really have to learn in order to be an effective teacher. But what our job is to create multiple activities, events, to engage them cognitively, socially, to develop them, to build those neural pathways, right? And so of course you had them there. What you needed to do was clear the way, clear the path, and take out all the, the weeds, if you will, and walk through it. Once you walk through that same path that you had, it's the same path still. And so that's the type of learning that we want the students to have. That type of learning doesn't happen with a teacher standing in front of the classroom, doing direct instruction. Oh, oops, sorry, I was trying to change pages. Oh, chihuahuas. Okay, that kind of, real learning, that deep neural pathway that's going to make connections that we'll be able to retrieve later, even if we left and went into a dark, corner of our field, a very specific corner of our field, you'll still be able to get that back very easily. Now, the way that those, learning experiences help students is student-centered learning. Direct instruction, where the teacher is the sort of all-knowing authority of experience and knowledge, is very limiting as far as learning is concerned. It's very limiting in your learning environment because your students are not going to feel like they're big parts of it. They're just like people who come to your classroom, your kingdom, and then you send them away. And so every year it was my job at the very beginning, before I even started, and I even had got called into the office a couple of years. And I'm fine with getting called into the office. I have no problem telling my principal why I'm doing a particular thing, like zero. So, because other teachers will complain because chismosas. Anyway, it's important to build a community of learners, and that happens in the beginning of the year. Yes, you continue to build on those relationships as the year progresses, but in the very, very beginning, it's very important for you to sort of set the stage. It's like, it's not me that's going to just like bestow upon you this great thing. We're going to have this like learning experience. I'm going to learn for you, which I swear on everything that is dear to me. Every single year, my students amazed me. And I looked at readings because I was reading, an English teacher. They said, on their commentary, looking at texts that I had looked at hundreds of times, and they found something novel in it to shock me. So I wasn't the all-knowing keeper of experience and knowledge. But that is not to say that we do not use direct instruction and that it doesn't have its place. It should be limited and purposeful. So like pre-teaching of vocabulary words, especially academic, right? So, and social, if you have English language learners, but that has to be teacher-centered, right? Because you are presenting, the knowledge of the definition, the visual, examples, non-examples, if you're that kind of person. I don't really like to do those. Antonyms is more my thing. If you're modeling, if you are showing them a new skill, all of that has to be, direct instruction. It works better as direct instruction. The students need to have instruction before they can go be sent out to do guided practice or independent practice. And so it should be used sparingly, and especially for vocabulary. Always and every day, every single teacher should be teaching vocabulary. I don't care if you're PE, I don't care if you're music. Students should be learning language in every single class, and they should be utilizing it and being forced to talk about it and use it in conversation, which is another big sort of like best practices in every content area, is that you pre-teach academic vocabulary before you do lessons, especially if you have special populations, especially if you have English language learners, especially if you have special ed 504. You're going to want to circumvent any issues in comprehension for them. It makes your life easier, and it makes their life easier and their learning experience more successful. They're able to feel more confident instead of feeling dumb because they didn't know a whole bunch of words that they read in a text. They won't feel that way if we reviewed them and have a basic understanding of them prior to reading, and then we see them in context. Now we have an even more solid idea. Then Miss Salceda asked me a very poignant question that I had to write about, and then I think pair shared with a partner and spoke about those academic concepts and ideas. And so it's getting them to play with the concepts, to play with language in a safe environment where they know that their individual self, their whatever myriad of diversity you have in your classroom, is valued and respected. And this is the way that we can see it should be valued. If you say, oh, I value diversity in my classroom, but you do all of your work and it's direct instruction, teacher-centered, you don't ever at all take into consideration the fact that students have very like different and meaningful contributions from their own diversity, then you're not practicing it in your classroom, and it's going to feel disingenuous to the students. So I like to show that this model because one moment, please. I'm sorry. It's probably the neighbor girls looking for my daughters because they should be here any moment. Hi, I'm so sorry, love. They'll be here at noon. I'm going to send them immediately. Immediately, because see, they were super excited when I told them. Yeah, she does. I think she wants to go out. You want to take her out and bring her back? All right. You can play just for a little bit and then you can bring her right back. All right. Well, behave, Nyla Marie. Sorry, excuse me.
It's okay.
So whenever you're thinking scenarios, you're within the exam, you're going to want to just think about valuing the students' interests and their diversity in your planning. Oh, oops, where did it go?
And I try to hit everything right now. I mean, this is my very first year and I have no help, no nothing, right? And I've never taught before and I didn't have a chance. Besides like the observation hours that I was doing, I've never done this. So I was basically thrown to the wolves, is how I felt. But I'm like, I gotta do it, right? I gotta figure it out.
And
So
how long have you been on the campus?
2 months.
Oh my goodness. You know what? Any single time, if you want to have like a weekly conversation about like how you can do activities and different things to help your student to make it, easier for you, just like strategies that happen when you have a mentor, like when you're having, does someone go in and
No,
observe you?
nothing.
What campus are you at? I'm so sorry.
I'm at Donna ISD, so I have nothing. And even my mom, she's like, you don't have like a mentor, somebody you can go to. I'm like, no, I have nobody.
Okay, I've just assigned myself as your mentor. I know that I am remote, but this is cannot be a thing that is a thing.
Yes, and so and a part of me is like, okay, am I doing things correctly, right? And so when I went into this district, they had no curriculum. So there's no curriculum for the classes that I'm teaching. They have no work. They have no nothing. So I'm having to literally read the
Put together
chapter.
stuff.
Yes, read the chapters, create my PowerPoints, create their notes, create their quiz, create their activity. Like I have to do all of this. So it's
Oh
definitely a
my
lot,
goodness.
plus having to study for my exams.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes. So right now what I'm doing is like I'm covering the chapter. I give them some notes to fill out as I'm going through my slides. And then at the very end, we get together and we do an activity. Right. So I'm trying to
Mhm.
keep them engaged, trying to keep them to do something.
Right. Absolutely. Good. So are you using cooperative learning? Like, are you asking them questions at the end of the
Yes.
lesson and then having them you might also, there's a really I'm gonna put together the folder for you, but just other activities you could do, like maybe um to quiz them on their vocabulary. Like if you guys have vocabulary, I'm sure you do all the time, to play the game find someone who, like find someone who can define endometriosis, and then you go and they walk around and they're like, can you define endometriosis, or like to find someone who knows how many bones are in the body, and they have to walk around and they can't just ask the same person all, but it has them practice oral language proficiency, because you want them to be practicing talking about the words, the ideas, the concepts in many, many ways, not just in your class discussions, not just in group discussions. And so the more you get them to engage with the language, the better that they're going to learn those concepts, find someone who can describe the steps of CPR or something, like depending on, and you come up with all of those things, and then they have to like review and practice. And the kids always like it because it's like a scavenger hunt of and a negotiation of meaning, because sometimes I would do it and they'd say find someone who can explain what an oxymoron is, and they'd go ask someone who clearly didn't know what an oxymoron was and pretend, and they're like, no sir, that is not, I'm sorry, I must find someone else. I reject your answer. But they discuss, this is what I think it is actually. And anyway, it's a good activity. Another thing for classroom discussions, just as far as when you're assessing them, because every day you want to be collecting data. You want to be collecting data through your observations, listening to their conversations when they're doing cooperative learning groups, listening to the way that they respond, making sure that you are doing needs assessments with everyone in a way that gives you a clear picture, not just like asking if anyone has questions and then no one raises their hand, because that doesn't give us any data as to mastery of any objectives that you're going over, right? And so it's important that every day you try to find a way to collect a little bit of data on one of the objectives that you did, that learning objectives. If you wanted them to, understand or be able to identify roots, prefixes, and suffixes in medical terminology, then then you might play a game or some sort of something that would show you, which students were able to identify the roots of words or the prefixes and so on and so forth. But doing that collection of data helps us do better at our planning or at our instruction, right? At creating those learning opportunities for them. So instruction and assessment go hand in hand for us. So every day collecting data, doing exit tickets, listening to the conversations, extending the wait time for them, and not allowing them to opt out of answering. So,
and I make sure I call on everybody. So I do a bell ringer as they walk in.
Excellent.
If they have a quiz, they'll take their quiz, then we go over the next lesson. And within the lesson, like every 2 or 3 slides, I have like okay, what have we learned question? Or 2, 3 questions, and then I go through the room and I call on everybody. Like, you need to answer. It's not just the same person answering.
Absolutely. So you should try where you have like, it's kind of juvenile, but the kids still like it. Like there's many things you can do. There's like a app where you put everybody's names in and it just like does a little circle thing and kind of like Wheel of Fortune, and it falls on one of the students and they have to answer. And you just do it over and over again. But extending the wait time for students, science says over and over again, giving them extra wait time, an extra 10, 15 seconds to process your question, gather, have their own neural pathways be activated, prior knowledge to try. And if still after extended wait time, because science has shown over and over again that does increase the student's chances of not just answering the question, but answering it more fruitfully past 1 or 2 words. So you might get a student that after you've extended the wait period and they're like, I don't know. So I saw this somewhere and I don't remember where. Like, I wish I could give credit to whom it was a long time ago in my teaching career, but it was just so long ago. I took the PPR and my content exam in 2003 in like a very large auditorium on paper with like hundreds of students.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was quite a while ago, but it's a beautiful concept. And it comes from that show, like, I think it's Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And so if you don't know the answer, you could phone a friend.
Mm-hmm.
And what this does, like, so in the beginning of the year, we discussed like no opt out of like, you can't just say, I don't know. That's not a thing, because we're in school and we're supposed to be learning. So that can't be like your only answer like that. We can't just stop there. That's nonsensical. We are here to learn. So if that's the case, since not opting out and saying, I don't know is not an answer, okay, if you don't understand, phone a friend, and they can ask anyone in the classroom, go over there, discuss it. It's sort of like a think, pair, share between them. And then they still have to come back and report it. And now they've set it out of their brain. And if they didn't really know before, or if they were, whatever the case may be, some new learning takes place because they go, they listen, they thought, so it's a better mechanism for the students. And once, if it's implemented in the beginning of the year, and done consistently, no opt out, that they have to, phone a friend or get with their side partner to come up with something. It shows them that it's not about getting an answer right or wrong or knowing it. It's like, if you don't know it, then we need to find it out, because everybody needs to know this. So that learning is like the importance, or like showing the students that's the importance, and not so much, being right or knowing right away, putting that focus somewhere else. Okay, so this, going back to the standard, we discussed what it was, you doing all of those sciences, knowing everything about science apparently, and then also be given no curriculum. So it's like you have the biggest buffet before you of science topics. And it must be daunting to choose, the different, your what you would want to, because there's so much. Okay, so on the left hand side, you have the case standards. these are your knowledge standards. This is what you should know before you get into the classroom. So you should know how to manage classroom, field, and laboratory activities to make sure everyone's safe. The history of nature and science, holy, that's a lot. The process of science inquiry and the role in science instruction and its role. The impact of science, responses of the human body, the body's effort to maintain homeostasis. Okay, on the right-hand side, you have application. So your skill, what do you need to be able to do with this information? This information you must know, and then you must apply it into the classroom. So all of the correct answers on the exam, they're going to be an educator doing something from the right-hand column. They will be employing safe practices in designing, planning, and implementing all instructional activities. So they will be providing opportunities for students to use higher order thinking skills, logical reasoning, and scientific problem solving to reach conclusions based on evidence. So it would be an example of someone doing something specifically from the right-hand side. So it's important that you go through this document and that you not only know that you are familiar with knowledge standards on the left-hand side, but that you can imagine sort of like in your mind's eye what that teacher is doing. Like, what is she doing in this standard? Interpreting and analyze scientific and technical data related to healthcare. Okay, I could, see a teacher giving a lesson on that. How many people are hospitalized right now after, the COVID vaccine? How many of them have vaccine? Like, if you did something like that, that would be you interpreting and analyzing scientific data that comes or that is related to healthcare. Do you have any memories of particular areas that gave you difficulty, like where you said these types of questions were the most difficult for me? Or was it so long ago that you don't have a good recollection?
To be very honest with you, it's been so long that I don't have a recollection, right? A lot of the things that I know that I do am knowledgeable are like, they ask you questions like, okay, to go to school to be a doctor, how long does it take? Or what takes longer to become a nurse or to become a medic? Like all those things were pretty simple for me. All of the converting like milliliters to tablespoons or things like that were all things I was able to get. I think what didn't help me were probably all of the learning strategy questions, like how to implement, because at that point I had completed 0 of my PPR studying work.
Got it.
At that point, I had just focused, to me, it was like, let me just do all this health science first stuff, and then I'll take my exam, and then I'll worry later about the PPR. So I think because I didn't do any PPR work, I had never opened up any of that stuff. So when I took my exam and whatever had to do with, implementing our learning, our strategies on how to teach the kids, I think that didn't help me.
Right.
And it was more like I was just guessing, I guess you can say, what I thought was correct.
Right.
So now that I've done the PPR.
And for this exam, you can't guess because that their words were chosen so carefully. And so guessing is and I know that you were just more doing that on purpose. But for those pedagogical type questions, ones where you do have to make instructional or implementation, class implementation decisions, it's imperative that you understand the terminology, the different strategies that we use, why we differentiate, what does it even look like to differentiate for your students, so that you'll be able to choose the correct response to a teacher, doing such things on the exam in the health science profession. So I'm going to erase this real quick. Where did my thing go? Okay, so and then it continues more, because obviously that was like a ridiculous amount of things. So you must be able to identify pathogens of the human body, evaluate the effects of antimicrobial agents, illustrate the stages of pathogenesis, including incubation. Okay, so all of that, that's a lot of content-based stuff that you have to be able to do with and for your kids, right? Because you are going to be modeling a lot of this stuff for them. Okay. Understanding and applying the foundations of health science concepts related to healthcare systems, core academics, history of health science, funding methods, research, and medical terminology. I'm thinking that you didn't have difficulty very much with these sections, right?
Not really. And especially now that I'm more teaching it, I'm hoping that this really helps me.
Absolutely. I think it will. Okay, so verbal and nonverbal communication. So it's very important for us as teachers. Like, remember I told you that one of the most important things in the beginning of the year is to create like a community, a sense of community, right? And so if you are trying to create a sense of community, then that means that you're someone who is mindful of how your nonverbals might be received to your students. Like, even if you're having a bad day, like me without coffee when I'm teaching was just like the worst. And I know it, like facts, and so I would have to be very mindful because I'd be like more irritable. And if just huffing or a slight roll of the eyes to a student, because for students, they only have their parents and school for so much of their life. And so it's very important that our nonverbals and our verbals are going to be things that are supportive of students and that help build towards that sense of community and belonging, and not the opposite. But this is talking about with respect to your content area, I believe. But in any event, I'm talking about it with respect to teaching and how important, just clear communication is. And an example of a way that you can differentiate is that you can, or an example of a teacher differentiating is in the beginning of before a lesson or activity that you say the directions out loud, like, reading them, showing them on the board, keeping them up there, and then printing out an actual paper with the directions to people. And for some people, they'll need that tactile, this is my paper of direction, so doing those different things, making sure that you were clear about it, that is a way to differentiate a little bit for students who learn and understand in a different way. I need to see it, I need to hear it, I need to like have something in my hand touching it while I'm doing it. So you've provided those 3 ways for different modalities before the learning takes place. Health science teacher understands and implies knowledge of wellness and fundamentals. Okay, so this is the one that you're good with as well. Health science teacher understands, applies, again, content related. Trying to get to the ones where it's talking about like, and so you're good with HOSA and all that stuff. I have to tell you that I like my daughter, she's on varsity swim in the Valley. And she's getting her Letterman this year. She's a junior. And I was telling her yesterday, hey babe, you know what? I think you and I are the only ones in the whole family who's ever gotten Lettermans. She's like, yeah, but mine's from HOSA. Like, I'm such a dork. I went to Med High, like hers is all cool. She's on varsity swim. I went to state. We got first place in state my junior and senior year, and we even went to nationals. Yeah, it was very cool for HOSA Bowl, Med High. So yeah, I got a Letterman, but it was for something incredibly not athletic. Anyways, this is one I think that you're probably good with as well.
Yes, I think that was part of like professional responsibilities.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this might be one. Plan a sequence of courses for health science education. Did you have to plan your own courses at your campus?
I mean, I guess, yes, if you want to say that. Because I'm
Well,
having to do everything on my own. I'm having to plan all my own lessons and all of that stuff.
wow.
Yes.
Hmm.
And that's when, like, so I make my quizzes, I whatever, and sometimes I'm like, okay, like, are my quizzes so hard, right? Because I have kids that don't pass, but then in the same class period, I have students who get hundreds and nineties, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's not me, right? Maybe it's my students
Right.
who just are not studying, are not comprehending. So I don't know.
Right. So what's the content area right now?
Right now we're doing, for principles of health science, we're doing anatomy and physiology. So we're going through each body system.
Okay.
And for my medical term class, well, we go through each body system and we learn the medical vocabulary.
Okay. And so before, so do you pre-teach your vocabulary before you start talking about these things areas?
I do not.
Okay, let's try that as a change. I guarantee it'll help, and I'll show you the model that I want for you to use, the Freyer model, because it just makes it easy. And then have the students start taking that, writing it down, doing it with you, like implementing it, like taking maybe like 5 to 10 minutes, or maybe split the difference in 7 minutes. To go over those overarching concepts before you get in to delve into it. And then what are you doing for like your audio visual kids who sort of like, learn through watching television sometimes, because that's literally the way that they were raised and like they grew up.
Yeah. So I do incorporate videos to different lessons. So I'll find videos on YouTube having to do with the lesson and they'll watch them.
Because I think it seems so babyish, but I think I watched it even at Med High. We watched some, like the magic stool bus would go to different body parts, body systems, and like have you seen that?
No, not through the magic school bus. No.
OMG. I'm gonna right this moment, at this very moment, try to find so okay, I'm just going to show you just a little part of it. Yeah, just
so I've got my essay written about. And I've been working on it for about a week.
So you can find these clips on YouTube.
So now I'm going to show you how I use Grammarly.
And after you do your vocabulary, you can show them one of these and it'll again solidify it. Like not only did you just pre-teach it, but then you watch this and then you do your activity. Now they're going to see it 3 times before they even get to the thick of it. You know what I mean? It's like I'm very babyish, I promise. But the kids love it. We loved it. Wait, this is not what I'm wanting. What in the actual heck is this? Is not even what I was looking for.
The tongue sends them.
No, this is something else.
No, we just went through that too, the tongue.
Do different jobs. Our front teeth, the inside.
I think this is not it.
Like a game.
Yeah, this is not what I was looking to show you. Let me go back. Let me see. Magic Anatomy. Inside Ralphie for lunch. This is the one that we just wait. This whole thing. Inside the nervous system.
Seatbelts, everyone! Please let this be a normal field trip. With a friend? No way!
Cruising on down Main Street, you're relaxed and feeling good.
do this.
Magic school bus. Make a plane turn to. Take that. Our magic school bus. Rock the river of love. It's a wild ride. What a great question, children. I have. Ow!
What the heck?
Spinal cord or the information high
You know
from
what?
other
I
cells
don't
and
think
neurons in the
any
body.
of these
When the message
are
of
the
moving
actual
ions
show.
in and
Like, I
out
guess you
must
can't
create
see it
negative
unless you
55
buy
You probably have to like purchase the
pass through
actual.
the
threshold.
episode.
Once the
But
action potential has made it
Oh,
past the threshold,
hold on.
it moves down the axon in order to be sent to
I
other.
am so disappointed with it.
But I do. I try to find little videos based on like the lesson that we're learning, and I'll play it at the end of the lesson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so that's a good also if you have like there's apps also, you know, like the app that obviously they were looking at it I can't remember this. Is this the same thing? I'm just like devastated I can't show you it because I watched it with my girls and they go into the body and they go into the acid in the stomach and
That's so cool. I will definitely look it up though.
yeah, absolutely. So okay. Yeah, just finding different ways to get them to engage in the content. You know, even maybe like through cooperative learning groups. And if you're allowing them to choose their groups, don't allow them to do that anymore. Put them in groups with kids that are different, have different abilities, make it a mix, you know, some strong students, some weaker students, maybe like high oral language proficiency kids, also low oral language proficiency kids, because you want to get different perspectives while they're learning, you know.
And so that's what I did. So every month I'm giving them like a group project, and it has to do like with health awareness, right? So for January, it was like cervical cancer health awareness, blood donor. They have every month has a different health awareness. And so I was pairing them up based on that. But I feel so bad for like my kid who's obviously on top of their learning with this group project, because they're the ones that end up doing everything, and my other kids do not help her or
Right.
him. So this, and it's happened to me in each one of my class periods. Well, miss, this person didn't do anything. It's just me all by myself. And so now they're all kind of like, miss, next month, can we just do the projects by ourselves? Nobody wants to work as a group. And I'm like, I said, when you get older and you get into the field of your career, I said, you need to learn how to work with your coworkers.
Right. Have you
Because
had like a mini discussion with the group, like with the people who don't participate, with everyone there?
So that's what I did this last Friday. Their
Okay.
projects are due in 2 weeks. I was like, okay, I separated them and I went through each group. I'm like, okay, where are we at? You know, who has done what, who has not done anything? And then I'm giving them, okay, well, if you're not doing anything, this is what you need to do to help your teammates, kind of deal.
Right. And
And of
so
course, they don't want to do anything.
do you have a rubric that you use like that will like because you want to have like pretty structured group activities where, you know, people have tasks and that everybody has to have something that they are responsible for, so that gets assigned on the rubric. And that way, if somebody doesn't do their part, it's just them that suffers, you know what I mean?
Yes, and I didn't do that this time around. I didn't. So I'm learning. I really am learning as I'm going.
Yeah, and the thing is that nobody tells anybody, but that's
Yeah.
what everybody does, or everybody did. But I must say that there are things put in place, like you're supposed to have a mentor to help with these things because you are just learning as you go.
Yeah.
You're supposed to have someone who knows what they're doing, to sort of, you know, give you helpful hints before you start this thing. Do this so that you can hold everyone accountable. So what I would do with this team for next time, because you can't allow people not to participate, they can't opt out. Like you can't not do that. You're going to leave here, and I want for you to leave here a successful human being, you know, someone who can go out and do their part as a part of a team. So create what sort of rubric, overarching rubric you would like to use for your students, and then go over it and say, like, how, if you were to rate yourself right now on this rubric, everybody here right now, and have that discussion with them and have those people be honest and say that you're going to, again, with the same group, really watch them, and you want for them to improve it, like, give them another chance for improvement, but a chance that will not negatively affect the kids that are in that group. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because I get it. I've been that person. I will do this whole damn project myself if it means we're going to get a bad grade,
And I feel bad. Like, I feel bad. It's like, how am I supposed to give all these other people, let's say 100 when I know they didn't do anything?
Right.
Yeah.
That's difficult and not fair. And counterproductive for the kids who are just, blowing it off. They think that they're being cool or whatever it is that they think that they're doing, but they're certainly not learning from your class. And so that's why, building a class culture of like teamwork, all my students always felt like, yeah, we're Sauceda's kids, like we're Sauceda's team. And that's, I made sure that I knew everybody's name by the second day of school, because we played a game the first day. Like I gave them all the paperwork they needed to fill out, blah, blah, blah. I made my introductions and we played this game. I learned about everyone. They chose a synonym. So I was like scholarly Sauceda, saucy Sauceda. And so they had to choose something that was a synonym, something that described them, an adjective of that also began with the same letter. And we played a game and I learned everybody's name. And then we discussed our objectives for the school year, went over in detail the objectives that the school had for us, the goals that the school had for us, the goals that I had for us personally, and how their success, my success was contingent upon theirs. Like I want them to be good critical readers and thinkers and to leave there happy and successful. So I was going to do everything. I was going to do everything in my ability to do that. And that meant that sometimes we were going to have to get down and dirty and work really hard, in the nitty gritty, but we were also going to have a lot of fun together, and we weren't going to, my class wasn't going to be a place where people like felt uncomfortable or like they were going to be bullied or like some people were better than other people. Like that was not going to be a thing that was going to be acceptable for me. And so I also included my students, which is something that you should do. And it's just what science says, that in order to get that intrinsic motivation from students, you have to show interest in them. You have to show them that you care. And if you say, oh yeah, I like all my students, and you don't, they can tell. Like you don't have to say, I knew when teachers didn't like me and I never had a teacher tell me they didn't like me. Like, I knew it. Based on, so creating a class that you respect the kids where you are, and that every day is a clean slate, you don't hold grudges on them because we're the adults, and understanding that they're kids. And if they are being difficult, it is because they are experiencing difficulties. I never, not once, and I had thousands of students, met a student who wanted to disappoint me or who wanted to fail or do bad or be bad. They were acting out as a result of other things that were not in their control. And so taking those things into consideration with your student, like, maybe some of the students who are not wanting to participate, like maybe something's going on there. Have you talked to them about why they're not engaging in any of the things, and how that, is a personal choice for sure. And surely you can't force them physically to do so, but it is a disservice to them. And it makes your potential success incredibly difficult because it is contingent upon their success. Have you tried talking to the individual students?
They just tell me that they don't want to do it. A lot of them is like, it's Miss, I just don't want to, or Miss, it's because I didn't know what to do. And to me, it's like I legit gave them a paper with instructions on what they needed to do. I maybe didn't give them roles to say like, okay, this person's going to take care of this, this, and this, and this person's going to take care of this and this and this. I didn't do that this time around, which is probably something that I can do for our next project.
Yeah, and I would just keep the roles open, like identify what the roles are, but let the team decide the roles.
Which ones they want to do.
Definitely you need to have a whole class conversation, because like there's classroom expectations, but then there's expectations for particular activities that I have in my class, right? And there are group expectations. Like you guys clean up after yourselves, that's a group expectation. It's at the end of it that you guys, if we have to put the desks back together at the end or whatever the procedures are, that we do those things, and that those expectations are set, that people try to be mindful and remain on task, and that everybody participates, because it's unfair. And a lot of times kids, will not want to participate and then play the victim, that nobody wants to like be their partner or work with them, but they make it very difficult. And so having these conversations, and I would definitely not have them, like if you're going to talk to the kids who don't want to participate in front of other students, but definitely keep them after class and just sort of explain to them, have a discussion about some of the expectations that you have for them, just based on your personal goals, and how they have to be a willing participant of it. The "I just don't want to" is not going to work, because you guys are both there. You both have to be there. Yeah. And y'all should feel like a team, like, man, we're going to be like the smartest health science knowing Donna students up in here, We're going to be like little Doogie Housers up in here. So I don't know, maybe try to do a little bit more, like maybe some team building exercises too.
Okay.
To sort of break the ice with them, you know what I mean? To get them to like, it's clear that they don't feel shame or embarrassment. The other people are like, you're not even doing your part, but that means that they don't feel connected to those people. I don't care what you think, blah, blah, blah. So maybe building a bit more of like the class community, maybe try like grouping them and playing some games, reviewing concepts before you begin a new area, so that they can feel knowledgeable and participate all together. So it'd be like a review of sorts. You can also give them opportunities to like self-assess, like they have to give themselves a grade on their work. After every single group project, you should have some sort of like a
peer evaluation.
Yeah, not a peer evaluation, a self-evaluation. Like have them reflect, think about like, what did I do to contribute to this, and have them give themselves a grade that they have to stay with based on what they thought they did. Peer's a little tricky, gets a little, and then there's pressure, because sometimes they'll be stuck with someone and they're friendly with them, and that person is being a slacker and they don't want to like ruin the friendship, but have them say for themselves. And then if you get a ridiculous thing that is just like preposterous, you would have a conversation with them. But all of these conversations are important, because all of this is a learning experience. They're learning how to be humans, and they might try to gaslight you on their self-evaluation. Don't allow it. Bring them in and say, as I walked around, it was clear that A, B, and C students were very much working on it, and you were, on TikTok or something. And so if you're finding that phones are an issue in your class, you can try different strategies. Like I would say, don't try it until the beginning of the year next year, because it's just easier. Like I want for you to this year, for the remainder of the year, just jot down somewhere on a list of things that you would like to see change, like that make your life difficult as far as like the school day is concerned. If it's kids use their phones, implement like a phone charging base or something that they go and charge their phones. Like, I'm a charging class, guys. Unless we need it, you're not going to use your phones, because it's a distraction. Like even my own phone is a distraction, Yeah. So I'm an adult, so let's be real about it and be sensible. And it doesn't have to be an all the time thing, but for when instruction and activities.
And I did tell them, and that was one of the very first things that I mentioned to them, because I know what it is like for always wanting to be on your phone and things like that. And I told them, I said, look, guys, I know your phone's important to you guys, but while I'm lecturing, I said, I would appreciate it if you're not on your phone.
Right.
You know, when I'm up here, I'm talking to you and I'm reviewing with you guys, I'm going through the lecture, please put your phones away.
Right. And
And I
even
didn't.
even for group work too, it's really important because then they can just do whatever and entertain themselves while they have, while everyone else works. So maybe, what I'm saying is that just little things that you see that you'd like to change, make a list of them. That way you can have a plan of action for things that you will implement in the beginning of the year. I spend the first week, maybe even week and a half, maybe even 2 weeks, some of those years, just getting to learn my students. Yes, we were doing sort of English stuff, but I didn't go like day one and we're doing stuff. No, we built a community, a sense. I did have them do English stuff, but not the way that, like through direct instruction. Like one of the first activities we did after we learned everyone, went through whatever, was put together our dialectical journal which was going to be the staple for all of our notes and all of our foldables and vocabulary and key concepts in the course. And I gave them a list of things like scavenger hunt of their life that would help me learn about them. And then they collaged it on their stuff, getting their things together, and then they presented it. So they had to find quotes, put 3 pictures from their home life of people who are important to them and other things. And it helped me learn their interests, their family life. I learned if kids were only children, if they, loved their parents so much, or if they didn't at all, based on the things that they put, and the way in which they answered the creation of the thing. And that is so important for the students to know that you care, because a lot of them don't think that you do, think that teachers don't care, because that's what a lot of people say in the media. And not in the media, just out in the public. I see it all the time on Facebook during coronavirus, when teachers were afraid to get back in the classroom. There were all of these moms who were just used to dropping their kids off at home and like going and drinking margaritas all day long, were very upset, saying, oh, they just don't want to go back to work. They're paid babysitters. Like, when they had a legitimate fear, they hadn't come out with a vaccine yet. Many of, the Texas population of teachers are nearing retirement, and they were in that high risk population. So it was a very real and valid fear, but they were very dismissive. And so these are things that kids hear at their house. And so it's important that they feel like, they have that we don't dislike them, and that we genuinely want their success, and for it to be a fun class. Like for me, health science, well, I went to med high, so that's like, I'm like not a good, I'm an outlier, if you will, but health science class is so interesting for me. All of my health classes were all of the different areas that we looked at, and can be very fun. So I think trying to find the best, most interesting ways, because what your students get excited over. I mean, they're probably going to have you done like sexually transmitted diseases yet? I'm sure everybody's going to be.
Yesterday I just created my work for the reproductive system. So
there
yeah.
You go.
I'm like, oh my God, how am I supposed to teach this right now? I mean, I know I have to, but they're kids, and I know. Yeah.
Let me look at fun. Let me see. I think
I found a video on sexually transmitted diseases. I think I'm gonna have them watch that as well through my lesson.
I think it's this one, but it's funny. The doctor, like the fertility. The fertility doctor does like a fertility scene. It's very funny. The guy's like,
here at the clinic, we pride ourselves on a 99% success rate, little Henry Healy.
Donald.
Unfortunately, there is that other 1%, and you're it. I'm sorry, but the test came back positive.
Oh, positive. That's good.
No, positive is bad.
No, positive is good. Negative is bad.
No, negative is good. You see, you are positively infertile.
You mean we've been doing it every night for nothing?
okay, maybe that wouldn't be appropriate, but still.
Let me explain. This
no, it would be, because you do have to have sex.
Well, that purple thing is your cervix. These green things here are your fallopian tubes. And this What's gonna happen? Toss me that. This yellow thing is your ovary. Right in there, like that. Well, you know what? It doesn't matter because you don't even have a yellow thing, and your green thing is brown.
Doctor, are you absolutely sure there's no hope?
None whatsoever. Oh, but there are alternatives to having your own child.
Adoption.
Mhm.
So yeah, the reproductive, I'm sure they'll be all ears for such things. And that's gonna, with the high school kids, you have to tread lightly with them. What grade level are they?
9th and 10th.
Okay. Yeah, I taught 9th and 10th for a very, very long time. Okay, so I would venture to say that maybe this is the standard that possibly. So this one here,
Based on my results, can we determine what I need to study more of?
absolutely. So let's take a look. I'm gonna look at yeah. I literally just no. Oh no, where did it go? Maybe it's saved on my home screen. Oh yeah, I did. Okay, can you? Oh, it's paused. Resume.
Paused, yeah.
Oh wait, let me stop share and do a new share. All right, so let's see. So you had the most difficulty with actually you did the best with professional responsibility. So you did understand. Yeah. The occupational knowledge, those health related questions, and the medical sciences and the academic foundations, those are the ones. So all of the science related study ones are the ones that you did weakest on. So for this section, where's my, oh, here it is. For this section, foundations, you got 7 out of 15. So, and then again,
The same, yeah.
yeah, again, the same. 7, why is it not doing it again? 7 out of 15. Which is like, like I said, roughly,
Half of it.
yeah, 50%. And same for this, it's 17 out of 35, a little bit higher of a percentage, maybe like 56 or something. We could do the math, but your highest was this one here.
Mhm.
And that one included the let me see. Go back to the standards really quickly. Oh, Chihuahuas, really? Where is 11? Do you see 11 anywhere?
Nope. 10.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
7.
7, 8, 9, 10. 11's not even on there. What area is 11 in? Let me look on the website at the health science exam. It is. Look at the domains quickly. Overview and exam framework. Oh. Yeah, there's only 10. And they're still the same. Like nothing's changed from their manual. And the reason we use this manual is because the state is incredibly secretive about their exams, their testing. And they do that because they don't want for people to just be one and done. You know, they want them to take it.
Fail.
Exactly. So you can take it multiple times. And so still what they have, and I'm gonna stop my share and reshare my other screen here. So here's the breakdown, and this section here with the focus on, you know, domain 3, that has to be your area of focus because it's one of your lowest areas.
So much.
Right. And it counts for so much, which is why that hurt you. And so I think just with what you've studied and you've done in the classroom, you would be ready to take the exam again. Think that, but being mindful of the types of things and strategies that, you know, that you now know about after studying for the PPR and delving, you know, with those things and reviewing these particular things. I mean, you're going to be ready to go. Let me see, domain 3.
Domain 3.
You're understanding the aging process, therapeutics, nutrition, concepts of technology, pharmacology,
Teacher understands the concepts of culture.
mental health, understands the fundamentals of wellness, disease prevention, and the importance of okay. Understands the roles of healthcare workers.
And my lowest there was competency 10, I believe.
10.
A 7, I did 3 out of 2. And even the next one, competency 8. I only got 2 out of the 8 right.
Competency 8 is about therapeutic concepts of nutrition and social cultural issues related to nutrition. So describe the nutritional needs of different populations.
I
Clients
think it was more 8, 9, and 10 because 11 through 13, I got 3 out of 4.
Yeah, absolutely. So 8, 9, 10.
Let me write that down. 8 through 10. All right, this definitely helps. Now I know a little bit more on what I need to.
Absolutely. And if you want to go and like take a look at the TEKS, reflect on your TEKS to sort of study some of these things that you should be talking about. For instance, we'll take a look at it right now. I've never seen it like this on a document, but these are your TEKS, but compare practices used by various cultures and societies to solve problems related to health. So it's important to go through, you know, the TEKS and see what the student is supposed to be able to do, because this is what they should be able to do before they leave our classroom. Let me see. I guess it is. Oh, this is their drafting of the stuff. So these are all of your different objectives. They should be able to do those things before they leave your class, or have these skills. So, you need to work on nutrition, pharmacology, and the cultural aspects associated to social and cultural aspects associated to mental health.
Okay.
Now let's take a look at which ones in, what were your lowest ones in domain 4?
Let me bring that up. Domain 4, professional responsibilities. I mean, competency 14, I did 5 out of 6. Competency 15 was 5 out of 5. The lowest was competency 16. I did 2 out of 4.
Okay. Ethical and legal responsibilities of healthcare workers. Issues related to death and dying. But like I said, you're going to make the most improvement bang for your buck by
Domain
focusing
3.
on domain 3, and then even, going back and reviewing the lowest ones. What are the lowest ones in domain 1 and 2?
Let's see. Domain 1 was domain competency 1. I did 2 out of 6.
Okay, so that's the major trends in history of healthcare and the impact of healthcare on society. So that's a lot there. The roles of the Centers of Disease Control. I mean, I think that after having been back in the classroom that, a lot of these things you've thought of and looked at, right? More so than before you took the exam.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, and there's always going to be a focus on like how that is, how medical or like the science, how the cultural aspect of it, like the way in which the different cultures are affected, negatively or positively in different aspects.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be a recurring theme throughout. Let's see, what is this section 5? Those resources. See, medical terminology, like you're immersed in it right now. And they say to use the TEKS, and you should use these TEKS. And then the standards that I showed you right now, that I would like for you to do a close reading of, and we'll go back to look at those. Wait. Exit full screen. And go back to my other. So with, and we'll go more deeply because this has the same information that you have online. So these are the types of things that you need to analyzing nutritional information, nutritional needs, and different, like with different treatments, cultural influences, eating disorders, therapeutic diets, food allergies, additives, like just the whole shebang.
All on nutrition. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like, for instance, when you're doing a close reading, like, I don't know, I mean, I kind of like macrobiotic diets. What does that mean? Like it more what?
The amount of macros that you're intaking. So how many carbs per protein you're ingesting, things like that.
Okay, macro diet, is it fad diet based on ideas? Types of, wait, what?
It's like a balance you're trying to consume.
Okay, reduce animal products and okay, well, maybe that wasn't the best resource that it pulled up. I don't know. But in any event, when you're going through this document and your standards and you see something that maybe you're unfamiliar with, just Google it and jot it down. You don't have to memorize it, but you certainly don't want to look over something and have a concept that you don't understand what it means. Just want to have a basic understanding of all of it. I mean, you're not going to be able to identify a huge swath of drug names or whatever, but you should be able to like,
Your common, yeah.
yeah, and the different classifications of you know, just generally the types of knowledge that you should have. Compares and contrasts drugs approved by the Food and Drug Administration with alternative medicines. So that you're supposed to do this. They might give you a question where it seems like, oh, maybe the teacher shouldn't be doing this, showing them this, you know, alternative medicine, comparing and contrasting. But no, we're supposed to do that and discuss, you know, the negatives and the positives, if any, because there are things that are not approved by the Food and Drug Administration that people swear by. And there have been forever. I mean, even as basic as like doing the Webble, you know what I mean? Like can be considered an alternative medicine. It really doesn't do anything, but it does for some people. and they would rather do that than have someone curar de ojo than
Yeah.
take a Tylenol, you know, because they're like get the alternative and they'll feel better too. So but that's something that you should discuss, you know, discuss the difference in culture, the medicine, the mythology, sometimes all of it. Okay, I think that's the end of our time, but I am going to put together a folder for you of resources, and I'm gonna email it to you or text it to you so you can have the link, and then I think that you're gonna be ready. I'm gonna look for some questions. I mean, we'll do some questionings from this manual. I know you've seen it already, but it's probably
And yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. Honestly, I probably could still go through those questions. Like it's been so long that I've opened up those questions, to be very honest with you.
right. I'm sure it'll be like doing it again, but
Yes.
let's wait till next time after you do some you know, some of the looking at the study material, and next time you can go through and we can practice some of the strategies.
Okay. And then, so how much is it per each session? That way I kind of know.
Right, and it's 60 per session.
60. Okay.
Yes, but then you can always contact me for free and we can do a Zoom as far as like whatever you need extra for your classroom. Like
Okay.
you have a lesson and you want to, you know, bounce it off someone and like think like, can you think of any ideas or activities or something fun way of doing it? Like any questions you have, because I think it's, and I'm going to talk to someone with Teacher Builder about, you know, making sure that they get you somewhere on campus that is supporting you.
Mm-hmm.
And that you're not out there floating about alone aimlessly. You're doing a wonderful job, by the way, if no one's told you.
Thanks. Yes, and that's what I was telling my mom's also a teacher, but she works for middle school, totally different subject. And I was telling her, I said, you know, for me at least, like my principal has not come by once to my classroom or has not come to observe like what I'm doing. And I find it odd. Like to me, it's like if I hired a new teacher who has zero experience, I would feel as a principal. Again, I don't know what they're, you know, what they do as much, but to at least go observe them once and kind of see where they're at. And
Oh, yeah, they should, and they should have instructional support people, an administrator who's focused just on that.
yes,
But
and I
not-
have not, that has not happened. Like nobody has ever come to my room to observe.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to work on that for you, and we're going to work on all of it. So you're going to get your test passed soon, and I'm going to help you with the logistics of the real world,
Mhm.
and you'll be fine. You sound like you're doing an amazing job, and you're doing it all by yourself. So I think you should just give yourself a round of applause and you know, be I guess just proud of what you're doing right now, because it is difficult. Like I said before, everybody sort of does it on their own, but there are things in place to make sure that you're really not all alone, and
Exactly.
that's obviously not happening with you. And then teaching after Corona is another beast, and so even more so do you need support, so
And it
it's
really is like half the time I have like 0 kids in my class. Well, I have kids, right? But I always have at least half of the class missing, and then they're out for
Right.
2 to 3 weeks, and then they come back and it's like, well, here's a pile of work that you've missed. And I just feel
know.
bad.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and I'm sure that feels overwhelming, and that would make me not want to do it, because I have anxiety,
Mhm.
and I would want to do it, but I just wouldn't be able to physically.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a lot, and you definitely need that support. So please feel free to you have my phone number, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so feel free to text me whenever you want, whenever you have questions, and to throw things by me, or just like, if you have, a scenario you want to run by me, don't feel free.
Yes, thank you so much. And then I guess you can let me know when we can set up our next session.
Yeah, absolutely. We can do it next week if you want.
Okay.
Just let me know and I'll write it down.
Alrighty. Thank you so much. Enjoy your Sunday.
Absolutely. You have a beautiful Sunday too.
Likewise. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.